Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Minisode number 126, coming at you live once again from my parents' basement. I'm in for a few weeks. I've been a little homesick, wanted to come home, visit the family, and so here we are once again with the somewhat shitty lighting. If you're watching on the YouTube video, I don't have the beautiful natural lighting coming in. However, we're going to make it work because I need to make sure I get these minisodes out to you guys, because I know you're craving that piping hot, fresh content. And that's exactly what I have for you today with this minisode that I don't know the title for yet, but it's going to be centered around how to eat to feel good. I think that's kind of the simplest terms I can make it. And this kind of goes above and beyond. All right, so let's say for the most part, you've got your calories down, you've got your protein minimum down, you're eating a decent amount of fiber each day. What's kind of the next step? Or maybe you have just more healthy lifestyle goals as opposed to fat loss goals or muscle gain goals or just goals centered around body composition. How can you eat and go about your day to optimize feeling good and well-being as opposed to fat loss and muscle gain? Obviously, there's going to be some overlap, but with this minisode, the whole thing that I was thinking of is how to kind of like maybe optimize your energy, how to minimize bloating, how you feel on a regular basis. And I feel like I'm repeating myself for what I just said. So you get the idea, how to eat to feel good. And so we're going to go ahead and get on into the first one. The first one is just going to be your water intake. I think this is the one that people think about as soon as they think about, okay, I'm going to start eating healthier. I'm going to start taking control of my nutrition. I think water is one of the easiest ones that people think of, but it's also one that can be really helpful because people don't even realize how dehydrated they are on a regular basis, especially if you do work out regularly. And I think that the best way to monitor this without having to, carry around your gallon jug of water with permanent markings down the side, like every hour you should be drinking this much. I think that might be a little bit of overkill, for me at least. I think the more practical way is to just look at your urine. Right, that's going to be about the easiest way to judge this. And if you've got fairly clear urinations, especially around your workouts, I think it becomes even more important to make sure that you're properly hydrated. That's going to be key. But if your urinations are closer to the yellow, and even if it's getting closer to the brown, you should probably seek medical attention. But yeah, the darker your urinations are, assuming that you didn't just take a multivitamin or something like that, whereas it makes your urine like neon green. As long as you haven't done that, then it's probably a good sign that you need to be drinking more. But on the flip side, if you're also somebody who is going to the bathroom every 20 minutes or something like that, and your urine is completely see-through all the time, you're drinking way too much water. There's no need to do that, and you might actually be doing more harm than good as far as diluting some of the nutrients and things in your body. You're peeing out just the same amount of water that you're putting in. So that's pointless. So for the first one, water intake. That's going to be huge. The next one is going to be more for some people have issues with bloating or their digestion and things. And of course that this can get very in the weeds and very contextual on the person, especially with special considerations. But I think in general, if you have problems with bloating and gas and just not feeling as good after meals, I think something to take into consideration is one, how large your meals are. You may be better off, instead of doing 2 to 3 large meals per day, you actually might be much better off doing 4 to 6 smaller meals, smaller but more frequent meals, to divvy up the quantity of each of those meals so that you aren't taking in as much at one time. It gives your body a little bit more chance to digest things, and you just won't be eating as much in any single feeding. Another way of helping this would be within those meals, eating more slowly. That's going to allow yourself to reduce some of that bloating. Lots of times, whenever people eat really fast, as you guys probably know, you can take in a lot of air as well. And so as a registered dietitian, this was one of the big things that we helped COPD patients. So people who had respiratory problems, one of the biggest things we told them was, hey, you've got to slow down your eating, because whenever you eat really fast, you're taking in lots of air, and that air is also coming in, and it's going to make you feel a little bit more bloated. So eating slowly is going to be huge, and pairing that also with chewing more slowly is going to, or I guess not necessarily chewing, although chewing more slowly, I guess, could in turn make you eat more slowly, but chewing to completion, I guess. There's like random numbers that people throw out there and things. I think it's for the most part, chew until there's not big solid pieces, then swallow, and then have your next bite. I think people can get into again, going back to eating too quickly, you can try to, whenever you're really hungry, you're eating, and then while you still have food in your mouth, then you'll shove another bite of food in your mouth too. So it's like eat, chew, swallow, then eat again. So yeah, that would help for bloating and just having better feelings after you eat in general. And it also prevent overeating just in general. So that will also help. Okay, the next thing that I think would be important, and this one is very near and dear to my heart, as you guys know, but it's alcohol intake. It's pretty clear that alcohol intake isn't doing you really any favors from a health standpoint, as far as an experience standpoint goes, and making you feel good in the moment. Usually, it can be a good thing, but as far as health goes, yeah, it's hard for me to make the case like, hey, yeah, alcohol is good for you, even in smaller doses and things. It would be irresponsible to say that you need alcohol in any facet in your life. And so if you do find yourself regularly drinking it and then regularly sleeping badly and or just feeling badly on a regular basis, alcohol would be one of the first culprits I would go to. Even if it's just a glass of wine with dinner or something like that, I would try to cut it out for a little bit and see how you feel after that. Because the biggest reason why alcohol can make people feel shitty, besides the fact that it is somewhat viewed as a toxin in the body, but it can really disrupt your sleep. And whenever it disrupts your sleep, then you don't get as good of quality of sleep. And then that can make you, that has its own myriad of issues in itself. So alcohol, minimizing that alcohol intake is going to be another way to make sure that you feel good on an ongoing basis. All right, the next one is going to be, let's see, where are we at? On time, 8 minutes. Good. I'm gonna rush through these other ones. Next one is going to be regular scheduled eating. So just having consistent meal times on a regular basis, trying to eat at about the same times and the same times, the same quantities, and with the same frequency throughout the day. It's basically like your body. It's not a machine like people compare it to a car or whatever. There are differences. However, as far as efficiency goes, your body does like routine. It likes things that are predictable, because then it kind of adapts in that way, and it makes you hungry. It makes you hungry at certain times. It makes you tired at certain times. It makes you awake at certain times, right? So having some type of routine regimen with your eating schedule can help regulate everything smoothly, right? So this just means trying to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner around the same times each day, and not varying those by too much. It seems like a small difference, but it can add up over time, and just how your body kind of responds to different things. All right, and the next one, these two kind of actually go hand in hand together. And this one's going to be the amount of fiber that you take in each day, and then seeing as how fiber is found in foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, lentils, et cetera, all these very nutrient dense foods that also happen to be good for you. And good for fat loss. They are good for you and also good for fat loss. But research is pretty clear as far as having, for lack of a better term, a healthy gut, right? Making sure that your microbiome and all that kind of good stuff is optimized, I guess. It's going to take a decent amount of fiber each day, trying to hit those fiber recommendations. So I think the totals each day are 28 grams for women, or maybe it's 25 grams for women and 38 grams for men. But for the most part, I think what you want to do is focus on having a fruit and or vegetable, or just a fiber source with every single meal. I think that's going to be huge. You also don't want to jump from, okay, I'm taking in 10 grams of fiber each day to 40 grams of fiber each day, because that can create some gastrointestinal distress in and of itself. So be mindful of that. But slowly upping up that fiber amount, and this is why I give my clients fiber goals. This is why I recommend a daily fiber minimum, is just because it forces you to make sure that you get in a decent amount of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, these nutrient dense meals, and you aren't just focused on calories and macronutrients. Of course, those are important, but fiber, fruits, vegetables, all those things are also very important for optimizing well-being, digestion, your gut, et cetera, right? So getting in, I would say for most people, a good recommendation is at least 20 to 25 grams per day, man or woman. Okay, and the last two is going to be omega-3s. So omega-3s is going to be the next to last one. I think the best way to do this is to look at the EPA and DHA on the back of your omega-3 or fish oil capsules that you may be taking, because this is the tricky part. What you don't want to look on the back of a nutrition label for fish oil, like the 1,000 milligrams of fish oil that you may see on the back for one gel or capsule of fish oil, is not what we're looking for. What you want to look for is the actual omega-3 content, and that's going to be the EPA and DHA, and you want that to total, I think it's about a gram per day, has been what most studies have shown being really beneficial for health. Of course, you can also eat things like salmon to up your omega-3s, and then it's in some nuts. There's different types of omega-3s, et cetera. But as far as if you're taking supplements, look on the back of the nutrition label and make sure that the total that you're consuming per day with DHA and EPA combined are over 1,000 milligrams. And that has been mostly shown to be helpful for overall well-being, cardiovascular health, et cetera. All right, and the last one is going to be to regulate your caffeine intake. This is something I think that people kind of do as an afterthought, but it can actually be something that you don't even realize. You're consuming so many coffees throughout the day, and you also don't realize that that's contributing to your anxiety, your stress, irritability. With caffeine, I've noticed that it's more of like an amplifier of however I'm feeling in that moment. So if the day's going really well, it does make me feel really, really good, right? It makes me feel extra good. But it's kind of Russian roulette, because if you're also, and you can't really predict if you're going to have a bad day or not, but if you're having a bad day, you take more caffeine, and then it kind of amplifies the negative emotions as well, the anxiety, the overwhelm, the irritability, that type of stuff. So I think for most people, you want to make sure that you're under 400 milligrams per day. I think that that's kind of the standard. And so I would start with actually just tracking how much caffeine you're taking in on a regular basis. So make sure you look at the back of the Monster can. Make sure you look at Diet Cokes or diet drinks in general, looking at coffee, tea, just tallying up all those and seeing how much you actually take in, and then maybe slowly reducing that and seeing what happens as a result. Okay, and that is it for Minisode number 126. Thank you guys, as always, for listening and for watching. See ya.